level stuff. We will do a brief history of AI, kind of where this came from, and you're going to be probably shocked about how far back we're actually going to go. Talk about some key AI terminologies. We'll actually talk about some applications for AI that you can utilize, and then how a business can use them, and then we'll have a nice big Q&A session. But before that, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Greg Chanese. I am a certified business advisor for the Albany SBDC. I also happen to be a member of the AI working group for the National America's Small Business Development Center, where I, as long as another dozen or so individuals from other states across the country, we get together once a month and we kind of talk about emerging technologies in the world of AI and how small businesses can utilize the technology, and how can we, as leaders in small business counseling and education, how can we help them navigate this world where there's so many questions? I've been using technology and digital media for well over 15 years throughout my professional life. I've been really excited to always look at how can businesses utilize emerging technologies in their space. Sometimes they can, and sometimes they shouldn't. And AI is not for everybody, and that's okay. And also last year, I received the Visionary Award for the New York SBDC, basically meaning I'm constantly looking forward. I've been looking at AI for the last 2 years before even trying to get into it, because I didn't know exactly where it was going or what it was doing. And that's kind of the approach that a lot of small businesses are looking at, is just because it's here, do I absolutely need to use it? And the answer might be maybe. You don't have to use it. Not every industry, not every business needs to utilize artificial intelligence, but you should at least know what's there and how could you use it if you decide to. So let's introduce AI. So this is a definition from IBM on AI. It is a technology that enables computers and digital devices to learn, read, write, talk, see, create, play, analyze, make recommendations, and do other things humans do. So this is one definition of AI, but I went to IBM for a reason. Most people know who Watson is in the world of AI. Watson is a computer that IBM created. It is an artificial intelligence. And most famously, it went on Jeopardy and competed against real people and won. Is that necessarily fair to have a supercomputer hooked up to things and being able to answer questions faster than the human brain? Probably not. But what it did was it demonstrated what AI can do from the idea of interacting with humans. It was able to answer the questions in the way that you have to on Jeopardy, which is in the form of a question. Could you code it to do that? Sure. But we're going to show how AI actually comes up with different answers all the time, depending on the question. And sometimes you can ask the same question to AI and get a different answer. But this is nothing new. AI has actually been around for a long time. The conversation around AI really started in 1950 with Alan Turing and what's called the Turing test. So you may have heard that phrase, but Alan Turing was an actual scientist who was really looking at how machines work and operate, and he created this test. Basically, it's if a machine tricks a human into thinking it's a human, then it has intelligence. We have yet to cross that bridge. We still know that we're dealing with a computer at the end of the day. I still have to ask it a question, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But I still know when something is typically created by a human versus when something is created by a computer, or when I'm talking to a person or a computer. It's not quite where it should be yet. And I say yet because in reality, we're really just getting into this. So this is a brief timeline and a quick one, just talking about where AI started, which was 1950. The term artificial intelligence was in 1956. So this isn't new. We're just at a point in history where technology has caught up to our imagination. And now we can do more. And you're already using AI and might not even realize it. How many have your Siri or have an Alexa or have a Google Home or some other smart device in your home? How many of you just have a cell phone? Don't think for 1 second that those devices are not listening to you and trying to think about what are recommendations I can give you for music that you might like, for food that you might want to eat, for activities you might want to do. Isn't it odd where if I'm having a conversation with somebody, all of a sudden I go on some kind of social media platform and it starts giving me recommendations for something I was talking about. I didn't type it. I didn't really do anything. I had a casual conversation. Why is that happening? Because things are listening to you. And the algorithm is trying to figure out a way to get that information over. Or let's go with this. Maybe you have an electronic vacuum. If you have a Roomba in your house, well, the first couple of times you use it, what it's doing is mapping your house. It's learning where walls are, where furniture is, where things are that it can't get around. You didn't teach it that. It is doing it on its own. So that's where things come into play, where you've been utilizing AI and just might not have known it. But now we're at a phase where things have gotten easier from a technological basis. We, as humans, can now readily utilize AI for what we want to do with relative ease. And what does that usually come with? Adoption. So this is a graph that shows the adoption of AI versus smartphones and tablets. And what you see is that the adoption curve for AI is far greater than the other two. Why? I don't need another device to be able to utilize it, and I don't need to learn a new program. I can go to an AI such as ChatGPT, and as long as I can type a question, I can start using it. Because that's all it is. At the end of the day, it's just using my language. I don't have to learn a new thing or buy a new device in order to use AI. That changes the entire landscape of what you can do technologically. Because now it's just a simple fact of, well, how do I get the answer I want? How do I ask that question? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But with this adoption and with the rapidness that people are adopting it, always comes government oversight, right? Wrong. The government does not quite yet know what to do with AI. This is a White House AI Bill of Rights that they produced. They are not laws. They are not policies. They are guidelines. This is a real thing. There is a link at the bottom of this where you can actually go and view this. But basically, they want it based on 5 basic pillars. So they want safe and effective systems. So the users that have the right to AI systems that are safe, accurate, and effective without opportunities to seek redress with systems failed or to cause harm. So basically, I want to make sure it's safe where I'm going. The algorithmic discrimination protections. People should be protected from unfair bias and discrimination resulting from AI systems. This is something that is really hard to deal with in AI, because when you start utilizing any artificial intelligence, the more you interact with it, the more it learns about you. How do you ask a question? How do you want to get an answer? And if you start putting your own bias into AI, it'll start to know like, oh, this person wants things in a certain framework, and it'll start giving it to you because it's pulling its information from the collective mind of the internet. However, it has the ability to distill that down and offer it to you in a way that it perceives that it wants you to get it. And if you use that information out into something else with a bias, hello.
Hi. Good. How are you?
Hi. If you could mute yourself, please, that'd be helpful. It also talks about data privacy. This is a huge concern that businesses have.
What's that? I'm actually on this webinar for that AI, but it didn't start right away, or it did, and people must not have been able to hear.
If somebody could please mute that person, or that individual could mute themselves.
I didn't know what you need. I thought maybe that's why you were calling.
Greg, I think you have control over it since you're the host. So if you just scroll over Laura's name, little three dots, you can hit mute.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
There you go.
Thank you. All right. Sorry about that. So the data privacy part is really important, because you want to make sure that any information you put out into AI, you have to understand that unless you're taking precautions, that information is going out into the world. It is going out into the hive mind of the internet that it's going to pull from. So if you put information into AI that is sensitive, if you haven't protected that, that's open to the world, and somebody else might be able to pull it. Notice an explanation: individuals should be informed when AI systems are being used. People should know. If you're utilizing AI, you should know that it is getting, that you are dealing with an AI platform. So if you're dealing with a chat bot, and maybe they say, "Hi, my name is Greg. How can I help you today?" But it's really not anybody. It's just a computer program. You as the user should be told that. You should know that you're dealing with that. But at the same time, it's not a law. It's a guideline. So the company or the individual does not have to disclose that right now. Should they? Shrug. Does it matter? Also shrug. It's up to the individual. Do you care if you're dealing with an AI as long as you're getting the information you want? It's an individual's call. A lot of this is about ethics and what your feelings are going into it. And the last pillar that they stand on is human alternatives, consideration, and fallback. Users have the right to opt out or challenge decisions made by AI systems. So if AI creates something and it puts it out in the world, you as a human not only should have the right to do it, you should question it. Because there have been many instances where AI has created something, somebody has presented it as real, and it turns out it was not. And they have gotten in trouble for it. This happens in legal cases where sometimes an attorney might try to cite a case that would support their argument. AI doesn't know that you're trying to manipulate the system necessarily, and it gives you what you were looking for, and you present it as fact. Well, in a court, people have to verify that stuff, and if they can't, you're in trouble. But again, none of this is a rule. None of this is a law. This is just a guideline. So whether you want to use it or not is the end user's prerogative. This goes so far that in terms of the copyright, right now, what they say is if it was created by AI, it is within the public domain, which means nobody owns what is generated by the AI. The information it pulls from, or anything that it quotes or cites, that is still protected. But what it generates out of it, if you're creating a blog or a white paper or whatever using AI, according to the Copyright Office, that is public domain because no human being wrote it. These are things to consider as you start going down the road of, do I want to start utilizing AI for my business? Or do I want to start using it in general? So how does AI actually work? Most of the AI that a small business will deal with is what's called generative AI, meaning it's going to generate you something, whether it is a copy, whether it's research, whether it's an image, whatever it's going to be, it's going to generate it. But the basic AI model is the same basic model as most computers. Input in, it processes, gives you an output. Pretty simple. It's ones and zeros. At the end of the day, it's still just a computer. So I have to input something. And in the world of AI, they're called prompts. So I put a prompt into AI, a question, a targeted research prompt, a analytical prompt, something that I can say, hey, I want you to generate this response for me based on these parameters. It's going to think about it and it's going to spit it out. Now it does it in fractions of a second, but that's how it works. So the importance of prompts is huge when it comes to dealing with AI. You have to understand, what am I trying to achieve in my prompts, in my usage of AI? What am I trying to accomplish? Once you know that, then it's, well, how would you ask the question to get there? Well, if you were talking to a person, let's say you and I were having a conversation and you wanted me to get that outcome for you. Well, how would you ask me to do it? Because you could ask that and see what comes up. And it might give you a terrible answer at first. But then you can think, well, how can you rework the question to get a better result? And here is an example of that. So this was something that I did in ChatGPT. This is real. I did this. And what my initial prompt was asking it to create a social media post for the 4th of July celebration that I'm going to put on social media. I didn't give it any more detail than that. So it generated this long copy. Happy 4th of July. Today we celebrate freedom, bravery, yada, 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 so on and so forth. Gave you some hashtags at the bottom. Great. Okay. But I'm using X, formerly known as Twitter. And I can't put that much on there. They have a certain amount of characters that I'm allowed to use. And it's not really formatted for them. So I asked it, rewrite the social media post so that it will fit in a tweet and be for a brewery in Albany, New York. And it wrote me a completely different post. However, I didn't have to re-ask it to be about the 4th of July. I didn't have to rewrite a lot of stuff. It already knew what we were talking about. I just refined my prompt to get to where I wanted to go. And this is how generally AI works. You ask it a question, and then in that same conversational thread, you can rephrase it or go into more details. I literally could have just written, be shorter, and it'll just shorten it. You're dealing with a intelligence that doesn't need to be reminded constantly of what you're talking about, as long as you're within that same conversation. This is why, if you have used AI, they ask you to create an account. Well, there's a reason. One, they want to know your contact info. And two, this helps the AI know, oh, okay, I'm dealing with Greg again, because Greg logged in. So here's all the chats I've ever had with him. He can go back and ask more questions within that, or we can start a new one, and I know kind of where he wants to be. So the more that I've used it, the less times I have to refine my question because of two reasons. One, I'm learning. I'm constantly learning new ways to ask questions to AI and get what I want. And the AI is also learning. It is helping. We're having I don't want to say a relationship, but we are having a conversation with each other that it is constantly remembering. And that is where you as a business owner can really start diving in to what AI can do for your business. So what types of AI are out there? There's the easy one. Google Home, Alexa, Siri. We all know about those. However, there's some others. What about search and social media algorithms? That's an AI. That helps the search engines and that social media present things to you that it assumes you're going to like based on words, based on your eyes, based on other searches you've done in those systems. It is learning, and it is presenting you with something that it thinks you want based on your activities, based on what you do, but that is still an artificial intelligence that is working to enhance your life in a way it believes. But then there's some really specific ones, and we're going to talk about these in detail. We're going to start with ChatGPT. Why? It's the most well-known. So ChatGPT is a smart computer program that's made by a company called OpenAI that can chat like a human, answer questions, and help with tasks based on what you tell it. There's a lot that ChatGPT can do for you, and they continue to evolve it all the time. Another one we'll look at is called Claude. It is Claude.ai. It's an AI that's good for understanding and chatting about complex topics in a simple way. Claude allows you to upload documents to it in a PDF. So things that I've used it for is we have access as the SBDC to data sets of industry-based data based on a lot of different things. But sometimes that comes in as just base numbers. And it comes into, well, how do I really tell this to a client or to a small business that's in a way that is palatable to them, that is not just numbers. So what I can do is I can go into Claude, I can upload the document, and it will start to generate a narrative for me based on the numbers and based on the things that I asked it. We'll talk about Copilot. This is Microsoft's AI, and what it does on top of being just a regular generative AI is it can incorporate with Word and PowerPoint, and that makes your work a little bit easier. So it costs money to have that integrate, but it can help you if you're working in a PowerPoint presentation or a Word document or Excel in trying to figure out exactly how do I format, what should this look like, and you can ask it questions in real time as you're doing the work, and it just sits there on the side. And then we'll finish up with Dolly, which is an artistic computer program made by OpenAI that can create new pictures and artworks based on words. And if you're a small business and you have a staff of, let's say, 1 to 10 people, in that grouping, you might not have somebody who is a graphic artist or is good at that stuff. That was usually a stumbling block. You would have to outsource that. Well, now you might have the ability to create your stuff in-house, or at least get a base design that you can start to manipulate. So this kind of opens the door for what a small business can do. So let's go into these in a little bit more detail. So ChatGPT is hands down the most well-known AI out there right now. Why? It's super easy to use. It's very basic. Their website is very simple. It's a little prompt window, and at the bottom, you ask it a question and off you go. So it's great for having conversation. So you can actually, within ChatGPT, if you pay for the pro version, which is $20 a month, you can actually create chatbots inside of it. And you can integrate those into a website as customer service, as virtual assistants, and as social interaction. This is starting to become more and more prevalent in the hospitality world, to the point that I was at a panel discussion a few weeks ago down in New York City, where an individual had taken ChatGPT and run it through a program where now there is a digital avatar that looks like a person on a screen. And you can ask it a question. And in any language that you need, it will give you an answer using ChatGPT to produce it. So it's taking what the algorithm is and how it works, and now making it accessible to the voice, not just typing. That is something that is, I would like to say it's far down the road. We're probably 2 to 3 years away from that probably being normalized. It can help with content creation. Let's say you're not a great writer, or you're not good at emails, or you're not very good at creating creative and engaging social media posts. Great. It can help you with that. Using some simple keywords, you can ask it to write you a blog post on literally anything, and it'll do it. And then you can tell it, well, I want it to be more casual. I would like it to be more specific. Look at this specific article that you found and pull out an excerpt from it. It can do all those things. It can summarize things. This conversation and meeting we're having today, if somebody records the transcript of it and puts that transcript into ChatGPT, it will give you a summary of everything I'm talking about. So it can help you in that regard, and especially when it comes to education and learning. If there is a topic that you are trying to learn about in a relatively short amount of time, you can ask it specific questions about that topic, and it will give you some explanations and some general education content. It will dumb it down for you. It will summarize. It will give you bullet points. You just have to ask it. Maybe you created a website and you work with a company that either no longer exists or you don't want to work with anymore, but they made your website and there's something wrong in the code and things are not working. You can generate code in ChatGPT. It will write a code for you and do what you want it to do. You can do this if you're trying to add new features. And here's the thing, it can generate the code, but great, now I have code. I don't know where to put it in my website. It can help you find where to actually place it. It can help solve some problems that a small business can see in a given day, just by asking the questions that you would ask a human. You just have to know what you want to know. Language translation, I just talked about that in the example of the individual where they are using ChatGPT within a digital avatar for hospitality. When you live in a place that has a lot of people who come from all over the world coming in, well, wouldn't it be great if I had a way to communicate with them that was accessible for not only them, but for me? You can actually have it do real-time translation for you, whether it's through text, whether it's through talking. There's a lot of things you can do. Or you can just use it for entertainment. You can just have some fun with it. My wife happens to be, on top of her regular job, an independent author. And sometimes she gets stuck. She gets writer's block. So I'll use ChatGPT as a way to kind of break through. Just giving some, you could try this idea, this idea, this idea. She doesn't use the actual copy that's in there, but it at least gives her a place to start. Or you can just have some fun with it. See how far you can go. Because the more you can engage with it, the more you're going to learn how to engage. And it'll learn how it needs to engage with you. Claude. So Claude is a conversational AI model, very similar in how you interact with it as ChatGPT, but the biggest difference is how it can take a document that you upload and analyze it for you. That is the biggest difference. So from a research assistant standpoint, if you have a 50-page report and you're like, I don't have the time to read this, or it's too complicated, I don't understand it, it can help simplify what that report says and give you that information. So many times we at the SBDC will go to our research team who are unbelievably great, and they're going to give us document on document, a document of deep, rich data. And that's great. But from a small business perspective, they might not understand what it all means or have the time to go through it. So what we'll do is we'll use Claude to simplify that information into a narrative, send that to them, as well as, if you want to learn more, here's where you can. But at least they're getting what they need faster. ChatGPT does not allow you to upload documents to it unless you go to the paid version, which again is $20 a month. Claude will allow you to do it with the free version. It can do all those other things that ChatGPT can do as well. I find that Claude is better for that analytical piece, where ChatGPT is better for conversations and for creating content. So if you're looking to say, well, which one should I use? That is how I would break them down. Microsoft Copilot, it is a AI powered and can integrate with Microsoft. So mostly with their suite. So 365, Teams, and more, you can integrate it into it. So you can do document creating and editing. It streamlines the process. So rather than being like, well, you know, I don't really like how I said this paragraph, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to put it into ChatGPT and it'll rewrite it for me. No need. Copilot will do it for you in real time. But again, you have to pay to have that feature included. You can use Copilot today for free in the way that you would use ChatGPT or Claude. But if you want to do that integration, work with your admins to have that included, or purchase it to have it included. If you use Google for your office work, their AI is called Gemini, and it operates in a very similar way. Copilot can do data analysis and visualizations. It can help create graphs for you that you can put into Excel, PowerPoint, Word, whatever. That is a huge help. It integrates with Outlook, so it can summarize threads, it can draft responses, and it can organize your calendar. So again, if you're a small operation, think of all the admin tasks that this could help you with. It's a huge help. You can do meeting and collaborations. Like I said, it can integrate into Microsoft Teams, which is if you've never used it, it's very much like Zoom, it's just Teams. But it can do real-time summarization of what people are talking about. It can track action items in real time. That's a huge help. If you're in a meeting where you have 50, 100, 200 people in it, and everybody has their thing to say, things can get messy. A 2-hour meeting can quickly turn into a 4-hour meeting. We've all been there. Wouldn't it be nice to have something that could summarize it and give me the action items, which were probably 30 minutes of that presentation? Let's be real. It can help with creating PowerPoints, and it can help with business intelligence. It can help with insights and analytics into your business. So you could upload a lot of data to it and say, how are we looking? Or give me the insights on the data that I provided for my business. There's a lot you can do with Copilot, and having it integrated directly into a business suite of programs that you're already using just makes your life a lot easier. And the last one I'll talk about is called DALL-E. So DALL-E is also owned by OpenAI, who owns ChatGPT. And what it does is it can create art and designs based on the words you put into it. So it can assist artists and designers in generating conceptual artworks and designs based on descriptive prompts. The big caveat to any kind of AI image creation is that always remember that these are computers. Computers don't always understand things. If you have questions about that, all you have to do is go look to, I believe it was Instacart. It was one of the online food delivery companies. And at one point, they were using, don't know which program it was, but they were using AI to generate images of some of the food that was available to purchase. Well, AI doesn't always understand food. Food's a human thing. So it would put 4 turkey legs on a turkey. It would do a can of beans, but the beans would be on top of the can. It would do all kinds of weird things with the food. And people were upset by that. And they called out that business. And they had to redo all of that. But that's the kind of stuff when it comes to art that's made by a computer, it's not always great. So never just have it be created and put it out there. Think about it. Look at it. Does it actually make sense before you put it out there? But it can help with advertising and marketing. You can create visuals that are compelling, content-wise, for campaigns, social media posts, promotional materials, education content. So let's say you're an educator. Let's say you're a teacher, and you're trying to really come up with some interesting way to visualize a really complex thing. It can help you create that, or at least a guide to help you create it. For prototyping and visualization, it can help professionals in architecture, product design, UI, UX design to quickly visualize ideas. So you're like, you know what? I had this idea for this very different kind of way of doing a screened porch. I wonder if it will work. Well, you can actually ask it. You can put in parameters of what you're looking for it to do, and it can do it for you. And then it can do research and development. So supporting academic and scientific research by visualizing data, concepts, and experiential outcomes. So it can actually make an image for some research that you've done or data that you have in an interesting way. This is one of several image ones out there. Adobe has their own called Firefly, and it does integrate with Photoshop and Illustrator. For a while, I believe it might still be in beta. I don't think that the general public can utilize that yet. But in the very near future, some of the most powerful professional image-based programs will have AI built into them. That's going to change the landscape. It's going to open the door for a lot of things. So you got to start to think like, well, what are some of the ways that I could utilize this as a small business? Because at the end of the day, all of this is great. AI is huge and massive. It can do lots of things. But what can it do for you as a small business owner? Because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. At the panel I sat on, there was all these talks about regulations and rules and, how will this affect the financial markets and how will this affect the healthcare system? And I sat up on a panel and I said, just so you know, the small business community is not worried about any of that. They're worried about how can I utilize this right now for me? And that's an important question because it's available. I showed in the very beginning, what was that adoption slide in the beginning of AI? It's incredibly steep because I don't need a device and I just need to know how to ask a question. So how can I use it now? So some small business uses that I've helped people with and that I've seen being used are customer service automation, chatbots, 24/7 customer service inquiries that are looking at your website or information about your industry that it can answer in real time. Most people, when they're shopping, let's say it's an e-commerce business, they're shopping at night or early in the morning. During the day, they're at work. Are you available 24/7 to answer somebody's question? Probably not. So what's a way that you could utilize AI to help with that? Maybe there's some operational efficiencies, inventory management, process automation. So let's go with you're a baker and you make a bunch of different kinds of materials, a bunch of different goods. Well, that's all well and good to have that finished inventory, but it takes a lot to make those different items. You should have an idea of what is my inventory control, and there's ways that AI can help with stock predictions and reordering, where it can alert you to say, hey, you're running low on X. You might want to reorder it. Or some process automation, something that's a repetitive task so that you can just have it do it in the background and move forward. Financial management, programs like Claude can help with that insights and forecasting, looking at historical data for your business that you might look at and your eyes gloss over and you're like, I have no idea what this is. That's fine. AI can help with seeing where you've been historically and where you might want to be looking down the road. It can also help with fraud detection. If you have AI in your website, or you get something that seems suspicious, wouldn't it be nice to have a computer program to kind of look it over before you do anything with it, to make sure that you are not putting yourself at risk? There's some productivity tools, project management. It can help optimize calendars, resource allocation, and email management. Prioritize and manage email difficulty or efficiency. Copilot goes right into Outlook, and Google's Gemini goes right into Gmail. They can help you. You just have to know what you're looking for and how to ask the questions. Marketing and sales enhancement. This is probably the biggest thing that most small businesses will use AI for, creating content. Because you can create it in a very detailed way. You can tell it exactly who your target market is, and then ask it to create content to best reach those people. How helpful is that? So rather than just shooting in the dark, you now have a computer program that's helping you hit your target market. That is a huge help. Sales predictions. Prioritize leads with higher conversion potential. You can take data from your website or from your sales figures, whatever program you're using to kind of record your sales and have a CRM, take that data and run it through AI to help you figure out, okay, we are seeing a trend in this specific area, industry, whatever, and you can start to focus where you should rather than doing everything all at once. It helps with that efficiency. Insights and decision-making, data analysis. It's the easiest one. I can take raw data generated from any CRM, any bookkeeping, any whatever, and I can have a AI explain it to me in real words. Competitive analysis. I can ask ChatGPT to show me who are the top competitors within a certain radius around me who are in my industry. And then I can say, what are they really good at? And conversely, where are their weaknesses? You can do that kind of research in about 5 minutes and then use that for yourself. So things that would have taken months to do can be done in an hour. Content and SEO. Create some digital content, whether it's a Facebook post, whether it is an idea for an image on Instagram, whether it's a blog post, whether it's something for your website. Cool. It'll help you. It'll absolutely do that for you. SEO optimization. It can look at your website and you can ask it, is my email or is my website SEO optimized? And then you can say, how can I make it better? And those are the big things to look for. And then also market research, kind of went over that when I talked about the competition, but you can do that for anything. You can look at industries, you can look at segments, you can look at a lot, but there's no real shortage of what it can do. And that's the real thing. AI is at the very beginning stages of where things are going to go. Since I've been doing these kind of presentations, ChatGPT has done at least 2 updates to their the image or the content that they give me without me even knowing it. It just happened. So it's constantly evolving, and that means that what you can do with it is also constantly evolving. So think about it from your small business perspective of how should I or how could I utilize this, and start to play with it, because you don't need to buy something new for it. It's free for the most part. You can start to play with it today and start seeing what you can do. But some challenges and some risks that you should be looking out for. So some challenges are data privacy concerns. This is real. Any information you put out into the world, you've got to really think about, should that be out in the world? And if not, probably don't put it through AI. Ethical consideration. Is it okay to use this for something that somebody's paying me to do? Is it okay? Is the information it's giving me good? Is it fair? Is it biased? How do I make sure it's not doing that? How do I integrate this? And if I'm not technologically savvy, can somebody help me do this? And if it breaks or something goes wrong or there's an update, who is in charge of fixing that? Cost implications. Like I said, most AI is free. ChatGPT has a $20 a month pro version, and there's others that have pro versions that can go up. So is it worth the cost of getting into those premium services within AI? And some risks, that bias in AI systems. If you are constantly giving it questions that potentially have a answer that can come back that is biased in some way, that's an issue, because that means you're not getting a true answer. You're getting a skewed answer. So if you're putting it out there as this is fact, is it? Dependency on technology. Over-reliance on AI could make the business process vulnerable to technology failures. AI is not always right. It just isn't. So if all you're doing is relying on it, you run the risk of it failing on you or making you look bad. Job displacement anxiety. This is a big one. People are very concerned that AI is going to take over jobs. I can't say it won't. It's not right now, but I can't say down the road that it won't. But I don't know if it's much different than some of the other technology that we've had over time, where it has enhanced the working world, but there always has to be a human component to be able to work with that technology in some way. Like I said, we have not passed the Turing test. I still know that I'm working with a computer, and not everybody wants that. So there will always be a human element involved until we reach a very different point, which is down the road. And then there's keeping pace. Like I said, since I started doing these presentations, ChatGPT has done multiple upgrades. I can't keep up with that because that's one program. There's a ton of AIs out there, and there's more coming every single day. So trying to keep up with that is hard. It's better to choose one or two that you're like, I'm really going to focus on these and get good at them, rather than saying, I'm going to use all of them. So really thinking about that is important. So what's the future?
Who knows?
Who knows? Well, whoever said that, that is correct. It is an unknown. We don't know. We're at the precipice of what this is. Some trends that we're starting to see, AI as a service. So accessing cutting edge AI tools via cloud services, making advanced AI technologies more accessible and affordable. So it's just going to continue to come out, and they're pushing it as a service. Automated marketing strategies where you don't even have to ask it. It'll look at your social media and say, I know what you need. And it'll start driving it. And then that voice and visual search where I don't have to type anymore. I can talk or I can look at something. Instagram's already using that. If you use the Reels function on Instagram, if you stop and look at a certain video, the algorithm will know that, and it'll start to push more videos similar content-wise to you. You clicked on nothing. You typed nothing. You looked at something, and it knew. So here's some additional information. This is part of the slides. I want to leave some room for questions here at the end. So please go through this if you'd like. There's books, there's online courses, websites, podcasts, community forums that you can go in and read more about what AI is, because AI is huge. So you got to really pay attention to it. So at that point, I believe that was my last slide. So if there's any questions, please feel free.